Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Okay, hello. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. And today we are here to do the recap and review of WWE WrestleMania Backlash. I challenge myself every time, Lucas, to not make a comment about how stupid that name is, but it looks like I failed again. Anyway, we might say it's a stupid name, but I've got to admit, it was a pretty good show. And we were talking last on the build-up, weren't we? We were saying, sometimes when you get these cards that don't seem that exciting in the past few years, they seem to deliver out of nowhere. So, I definitely feel like this was one of those examples.
Yeah, I think, I've got a theory as to what they're doing, which obviously we'll get into as we go on. But I think overall, I think it just worked. Yeah, it did work. But it just, the bigger problem was that there was not much at stake. And it doesn't feel like we're really any closer to having much answered as we lead into the big, summer of stadiums, essentially. Starting with Money in the Bank on July 4th week, on Independence Day weekend in America. And then obviously going through the SummerSlam at the end of July, followed by, of course, the Clash at the Castle event, obviously over here. It's all big shows. And it doesn't seem like we're any closer to any of this. If anything, we're actually further apart to some extent, because the main event, as we get to, the result of that main event kind of leaves it a bit weird how we're going to really proceed. But look, I enjoyed the show overall. I didn't really think there was a bad match per se. There was, actually odd bits and pieces here and there. Some questionable finishes, but let's delve into it, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
All right, cool. So it starts off with the Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes match, which I was kind of shocked by, to be fair. But when you look at the way the rest of the card went, I guess it kind of makes sense. And I do think the pacing on this show did work quite well. We start with Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. First comment really about this is when Seth comes out, I was like, oh, here we go. This show's starting. Oh, Seth's so fun. And then Cody comes out and I'm like, this is fun seeing Cody do this. And then, just a nice little kind of great to the start of the show where I was, again, just thinking, wrestling's fun, ain't it? And that's what you want. That's what you want. As far as the match goes, very enjoyable. Obviously, it was going to be hard to live up to their WrestleMania match, but it was still a very good match. Some big spots. Just ones that are kind of not simple, because this is the point I'm trying to make, but there's a superplex spot where they just kind of really emphasized how painful that would be to take that, and you see how high up they go. And Seth Rollins, for example, when he does a frog splash, the way he leaps and stuff like that, it's moments like that where these moves that get taken for granted, that used to be considered massive high spots. It's great when performers can really kind of show them off in that sense still. And I thought they did a great job doing that. Fantastic back and forth throughout. A funny little note where they basically said Cody had ring rust, and I was like, what? I know what you're trying to say, but they were like, he's been gone so long. And of all people, I didn't think it'd be Corey to say, he's been wrestling in other places, he just hasn't been here, which even that was a big thing. But it's like, I felt like Corey probably felt he needed to say that, even though it probably wasn't ideal for him. He probably didn't want to have to mention competition, and maybe would have got a bit of an earful. But I think it was he needed to get the commentary team out of that little loop of kind of you were going to get people just saying, just moaning about it. And it is delusional. I know that sometimes they act like the rest of the wrestling world doesn't exist, but let's be real. The whole point of Cody's character is that he's gone away and he's done well. And he said the same thing with Drew. Drew went away, he become the Drew that we see today, come back to prove himself. Bobby Lashley as well. So sometimes you have to acknowledge it. And that was just a little funny note on commentary. But other than that, match was fantastic. Of course, they flirted with the pedigree for quite a while again. And Cody actually kicks out of one, which I guess you could say is symbolic in some ways if you want. But yeah, I thought it was a really good match in general. An interesting way to get the end, but probably a good way in the sense it doesn't damage either party, you know?
Yeah, like I think, this. I prefer the WrestleMania match. I did like this one, but I felt they did kind of veer a bit into the stupid stuff that I don't really like in wrestling. Like towards the end, like I didn't get the whole kind of like why does he have to do like 2 crossroads back to back now? Like,
yeah,
why is one not a finish anymore? It has to be 2. And there was a whole faff about where he did one, and then he looked like he wanted to go. He looked like he was going to roll through to the second one. Rollins just like no sold it, basically kicked him, and then he got back into it. It still didn't work. It was just like, yeah, and then obviously it ended obviously with the roll up, which is obviously WWE for you, which I'm not going to go too much into. But other than that, like I enjoyed like the majority of the match. In terms of your point about obviously him wrestling elsewhere, we saw it previously with Sting, didn't we? When Sting obviously debuted, in WWE's narrative, he left WCW and decided he couldn't hang with the big guys in WWF at the time in 2001, and just kind of wandered around, kind of waiting for 13 years, and then he showed up at Survivor Series.
Roaming in the rafters, of course,
Yeah, it was permanently in the rafters for like over a decade before deciding, that Survivor Series match, between the Authority and Team WWE.
Yeah.
That's the time for me to make my debut in this company.
Yeah.
And it's just daft because anyone, even a casual fan, knew that obviously Sting hadn't retired and that he was still actively wrestling in Impact. Then there is obviously TNA. That sounds weird saying that, doesn't it? Because it's been Impact now for like quite a long time.
Yeah, I could still never get through the Impact name.
Obviously, as long as it was TNA for, but it isn't like it's just changed. So legit, there are people that will be only fans of Impact. So that baffles me. Sorry. Sidebar. Overall, it's a decent way to start the show. The thing is, I think they're giving people what they want. I don't know what ruling there is. If anyone can fill us in about the pre-show matches, but I think it seems like they're gone. They want Mania.
There's not been one for a while, has there? Yeah,
one for an absolute age.
Yeah.
So maybe this is their goal. It seems they have had every single premium live event this year start with like a really, really hot match. And this might be the reason because you're starting completely hot. Everyone's up for it.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's about the fans in the audience rather than the fans on the TV now. Whereas a pre-show was built before as in like an ad to kind of buy the PLE, then a pay-per-view. But nowadays, maybe they've gone more into, we need to not burn out the live crowd, because I think that happened a lot of their pay-per-views over the past few years, especially longer ones like the WrestleManias and stuff like that. Quickly going on length, actually, we've got Dan here in the comments. Thank you, Dan. Still strange seeing a PLE that is actually shorter than an episode of Raw, which is incredible. And because of that, I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I actually anticipated.
It flew by. Like, it wasn't for the adverts, to be fair. Like, the adverts are becoming a bit annoying, but...
but that's to cover up Peacock stuff, right? Because Peacock's getting actual ads, and us in the UK, we're getting promo videos, basically.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that very odd, and I find that very odd still.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if, middle of the World Cup or whatever, they just have like loads of adverts like after like 20 minutes and then they return, and then it's just very odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it did feel the right balance. But I've got my theory, and I'm actually going to say it now, actually, early on this thing. Okay. I get a feeling that, do you remember ages ago, it's happened a few times now, when they were flirting with possibly adding another tier to the WWE Network?
Yeah.
It's come out a few times. Obviously, it's been that price point now for 8 years of $9.99 a month. The only thing they changed was that now you don't get a month free trial anymore. Because obviously they realised what people were doing. They were getting multiple email accounts, and obviously then getting it that way.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's been $9.99 for a long time. Like even over here as well, it launched a year later. It's been $9.99, and then the fact that they rebranded it to premium events, my theory is, I think the big stadium shows are going to become the ones that you get on the higher price point. and they're going to be 4 hours, 4.5 hours long, or 2 nights, like in the case of WrestleMania, and be the ones that obviously they have, the big attraction matches, whether that be, big championship matches, title for title, celebrities, all that kind of stuff. And then this kind of event will just be the arena shows will just be a kind of simple, more simpler, six or 7 match card.
Yeah.
With maybe like a couple of title matches, a couple of big stars thrown in, just so it's above an episode of Raw or SmackDown. Yeah. But it's not going to be these every month, like 2018, for instance, but it was every month. It was like a 4-hour pay-per-view. I just get a feeling they're going with the money, and the money's in the stadiums. And those attraction matches that they obviously have every year, like Money in the Bank. Obviously, TLC has moved to Saudi. Obviously, Chamber as well has moved to Saudi. They're big shows, obviously, because they're obviously over there. I get a feeling this might become the norm, where stuff like WrestleMania Backlash, stuff like Extreme Rules, Payback, and all the other default names they kind of have will just become these kind of smaller, kind of in between kind of steps.
Yeah.
So people who want to subscribe and get that $9.99 price point, because the thing is with our $9.99 price point, it was so attractive because it's like, it's not a tenner, like just over here,
basically, yeah.
And it's just really good. And obviously, I remember that song they had, at the start when they launched it. They were so tied in. Everything with WWE Network has been so tied into that price.
Yeah.
That price point, which is great value, for what you get. But it's a case of, I've always felt this. Like back in the day when you used to have to pay £15 a pop for pay-per-view, I feel you got £15 worth of pay-per-view.
Right.
But now, when they had that period, remember that period when they had 2 per month, for instance?
Yeah.
Like how good, that was basically a £5 pay-per-view each time. But they're not even accounting, obviously, all the content they've got, obviously, in the archives, obviously, on the network itself. Yeah. So I think having a higher price point is what they're going to go for. And that'll be how they separate it, because it'll be stadium show with Brock Lesnar and 2 world title matches, 8-9 matches, 4.5 hours long.
Yeah,
it's an arena show where you maybe get something like a 6-man tag. You get to see like a one, because obviously they classify the women's belts as world belts too.
Yeah,
so you've got 4 world championships essentially. So obviously on a smaller arena show, you get maybe 1 or 2. On a bigger stadium one, you get 3 or 4. Plus obviously the attraction match like Chamber, Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank, etc., etc. Because that way you still get access to those people, but you're making those stadium shows make even more money.
Of course, and it definitely seems to be going in that direction. I mean, obviously you reference it already there, but Money in the Bank going to be a stadium show this year, which is fantastic because Money in the Bank's felt like the kind of next big one after the main 4. Anyway, obviously it used to be considered 5 back in the day with King of the Ring, but it does feel like, and it always was, there's 4 or 5, and then the rest underneath. But I feel like in the past few years that kind of it's become more tiered, and we said it a lot last night, didn't we, on the build-up show, that this feels like almost like a house show card. Like there are these PLEs now that aren't quite premium feeling, ironically. So I think that's a good point. There's definitely a kind of separation, and that's how you kind of could do tiers on the network, or even just straight up $9.99. But from now on, you've got to pay for Mania and stuff like that. But then that I think would go down quite badly. So I think it probably is more likely to do tiers. And then I guess within Peacock, because obviously American market is so big, they'd probably find a way to kind of do the same there. But there does seem to be a difference in presentation for the shows at the moment, at least.
Yeah, there is. I mean, this to WrestleMania is night and day. Like it's a complete night and day. Like how it was, how it presented, how people presented people that were on. Like, end of the day, like we had WrestleMania, that awesome weekend that, on the whole was quite enjoyable. But, end of the day, Vince McMahon went back to, after having one of the most talked about moments of the Mania weekend, let's say. I don't want to say whether it's good or bad. He went back to obviously running the company. Stone Cold's gone back to doing podcasts, and, just he's going to, I guess he's now content with the fact that he's finally had that final match. People can stop mentioning it now. It's happened. And all the other people, like, obviously Johnny Knoxville, of course, gone back to obviously tossing about. But do you know what I mean? But it's just like that all happened. But now it's just a case of, okay, this is what we're left with.
It's done with, and let's move on. Yeah.
Then they build up obviously to Money in the Bank. With obviously the next big attraction match.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it did feel night and day if you go look at WrestleMania, especially being 2 nights, stadium, stuff like that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean this was a bad show. This was the kind of like, and if this is what again tier wise is, and we can accept that a Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash, is not going to be in the same level as Mania, and it never has been really. There's always been a difference between Mania and SummerSlam, and even the Rumble and Survivor Series when they can be bothered. But there's a bigger jump, and that feels like because of that there will be then in between Mania. So in between Mania and WrestleMania Backlash is probably maybe not so much Money in the Bank because that's kind of breaking into that top tier now. But that's where I guess maybe it is your kind of Saudi shows and a UK show that we're going to get and stuff like that. So it's an interesting kind of thing to see play out in front of us. Going back to this show though, Dan once again pacing throughout the show is very good, as we've kind of touched on and agree with as well. And he says, I think this match was definitely the best way to kick off this show. Very hot. I reckon it's definitely leading to a third match, possibly inside the cell. Had the I wasn't ready now that you cheated. That's a good point. Yeah, we mentioned last night on the build-up show, and we've mentioned it a few times here already. If you don't know what the build-up show is, basically here at RM Pro Wrestling, we like to build up to the show and have a little bit of fun. So if you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch it. Of course, we are preparing for the show that's already been on, but at the same time, there are a lot of interesting debates and discussions in there as well, and great questions and comments throughout the night. And we tend to do this before every single PLE, so join us next month for sure. But yeah, we mentioned quite a bit on there really that like I said, there was the Hell in a Cell, what would be coming next, and that this pay-per-view was either leading to Roman stuff or Hell in a Cell stuff, and I think we speculated quite a bit on the possibility of AJ Styles and Edge becoming Hell in a Cell. I don't think we really spoke about Cody and Seth becoming a Hell in a Cell match. So what are your thoughts on that? It makes sense now because it did end kind of shenanigan-y, so
maybe, but also not maybe. I'll lean more towards no, because I think more of the hellish stuff needs to happen with the Edge stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming that they're going to do two of the matches. Then I'm assuming that either the other one will go to the women or to the whoever's going to face Roman,
or even the tag RK Bro and the Usos, maybe something like that.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially, or following what obviously happened with the Edge stuff. To be fair, that could even be made into a tag. Obviously, Edge and Chris.
Yeah.
Finn and AJ inside the cell potentially.
Definitely,
Raw tonight. Hopefully they decide they want to answer these questions and get us obviously a bit closer, because it just feel like almost every match really could. Because I guess we may as well move on to the next match anyway, because obviously Cody's thing. But the next match was obviously Lashley versus Omos. Like, does that have right now to be inside Hell in a Cell?
I flipping hope not. We said it last night. As much as we all agreed Omos should win, I'm glad he did because of storyline purposes. I don't think he's ready for a cell match, So I don't think that people are screaming to see. I wonder what that would be like. Maybe the top kind of guy, like the people in the head office kind of thinking this is what people want, and the little children might feel that way, and I guess that's where some of the money is. So maybe, but for me, there are definitely other. Even if you look at rematches from last night, there are definitely other matches I'd prefer to see in the cell than Omos versus Lashley.
Yeah, there's not much he can really do. Bless him. I think in terms of the match, I thought it was all right. I think it was actually better than the Mania one.
No, it was good. Impressive from Lashley as well. And we said yesterday, it's no shame in losing to Lashley, but the whole point was Omos is the character being built, and MVP is just kind of joint with him. And it would have made no sense for Lashley to win here. Lashley's all right not winning. Another comment from Dan as well, MVP in a shark case. We did kind of joke about this last night as well, Dan. That this that could be where we're going. And we said it depends what toy is coming out, Lucas was saying. So if anyone's got an Argos catalogue nearby, no, I don't think they do them anymore. Well, that's a spoiler. Yeah, Argos catalogues are spoilers. But the match itself, again, like you say, it was probably maybe a bit better than the Mania one. Not that the Mania one was bad or anything. That entrance bit, has he done that previously? The bit at the beginning,
that's
that podium.
New.
I liked it, but then the way they transitioned away from it just felt a bit clunky. But the thing itself looked good.
Surely wouldn't it have suited Charlotte Flair a bit more that start?
What, being on the podium?
The podium was okay, but the actual song they played before it.
Right, because it was, but it still floated into his normal song though. I thought it was just like an extension of it, but
I've not seen it before.
Oh, here we go. Dan's. He debuted it on Raw. Okay, I thought it was a special thing, but there you go. Two guys. That's what happens when two guys who don't watch the weekly shows do the pay-per-view purely reviews.
This is the thing. I mean, Dan will go to opening of an envelope of a WC, so I opened it. So, I don't know. Yeah, like it just felt like almost, I think they've kind of had it set. This is probably as good as you're going to get in terms of in-ring.
Yeah.
I know he's obviously been in the system for a long time now. I think everyone can remember when he was signed, and obviously there was a picture, obviously, their new recruits, and obviously almost visually you are attracted to him because he was, 2 foot taller than everyone else that was standing in the performance center. But then there's little things with his production, and again, Dan will probably tell us the exact moment he debuted these, or they debuted this, but just how they're doing his entrance from obviously the camera really looking up at him. And even when he went, onto the stairs and stuff, they did it from like, an ant's view perspective, which felt quite cool.
And also call him Nigerian. Of course, yeah. But yeah, it adds to the presentation, and they've done it for Andre. They did it for Big Show as well. But I feel like I've got to say, I've been impressed with the way the production has been for his entrance. So I think you're right. I think it feels a little bit. It's not just a low camera as they come forward. Like you say, there's the steps bit and stuff like that. Even MVP being next to him and looking way smaller now helps.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say them announcing him as, is it the Nigerian Giant? They're calling him now as well. So, they love coming up with these little kind of things like that. And I think that's only going to help him. And it just shows the effort they're trying to put into making him. And I do think him winning is a good idea. Obviously, he kind of cheated to win technically because MVP used his cane. And you could argue, the big bad Omos shouldn't need that. It makes him look a bit weak. But let's be real, he's a heel with a mouthpiece. And you've got to use these kind of spots. So I think it was...
he still did his move after, didn't he?
Exactly,
get hit in the face, and that was a pinfall.
Yeah.
Omos still looked strong at the end. Overall, right decision done. I think this spot on the card for Omos is probably a good spot because I think, too late on, obviously fans are tired.
Yeah.
Like they're not so much into it. Following the crowd really hot, weren't they, for Cody and Seth?
They were, yeah.
It made sense. Put this on second. Lashley, the people are really behind Lashley. I think fans, obviously we're divided on so many different things, but I do think as fans we have to appreciate people like Lashley and Drew who held that company and our livelihood, our life kind of, afloat, during the pandemic. Like I think we're forever kind of indebted to them, as much as we can sit there and say they shouldn't put this, shouldn't put that. It's like, these were the guys that every week during a global pandemic went out and went, we're going to still be the face of this company. Like, and we're still going to do really good, as much as we can do to make the product enjoyable as possible. And I think that's showing now the fact that last year's a baby has gone from obviously, a really good villain, and obviously some really, really great work he did obviously in 2021 and 2020. Well, to be fair, everything pretty much after the Bobby Sisters segment. If we could forget that existed, it's been pretty good. Even the stuff he had with Leo Rush, remember, early on, actually title stuff. Like he's been really just stepping up each time. It's just great to see him do so well. But I think this is the right decision. Give Omos the win, and let's see where it goes from here. I'm hoping that's it. That's it done.
Yeah,
I get a feeling it might not be.
Yeah. I think all the matches on this card I could see going on, except for we'll talk a bit later on, but especially the ones with kind of the earlier half of the card definitely feel like they could be kind of feuds that go on for even longer. But kind of end them while they're hot. I think this is a good place to leave this one off and let Lashley go do something as the great babyface and Omos go on carrying being the big bad Omos. Look who I just beat, So I do hope this is the end of it. But like you, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. Let's move into the next match then. So Edge versus AJ Styles again. Another one when we were looking at it last night saying, well, not massively excited, but when you start looking at the names on the card and on paper, you think, wow, why aren't we excited? And then you keep thinking, well, because it's rematches. We've seen all this. But at the same time, these two went at it, did have a decent match. I really like Edge's presentation. I think obviously that started at WrestleMania, but to have it here as well, and now as well, adding in all these accomplishments as well. Just kind of, it's quite funny to hear him say, you know, like everything he's done, and including, you know, calling him Grand Slam and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. Speaking of cool, a really cool spot was AJ Styles getting the Styles Clash by bouncing Edge off of the ropes as well.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. And of course, the big thing to talk about here is the reveal of Rhea Ripley as a new member of Judgment Day. I like the way it was done. I do. I think she, you know, revealing to a pretty big pop, I've got to say. And you could say there's kind of a mistake in this because she is semi-revealed to the fans because they cheer first, and then she turns around and then she snaps her head, and it was almost in 3 parts. And you could say maybe that's sloppy. The camera should have been like this. You should have faced this way. But I kind of like that sometimes when the fans cheer and the anticipation's there of they found out. We're gonna find out soon, you know.
I think it was intentional.
Yeah, so I really like that, and the way she did, and we've gone on about this already.
She faced the fans obviously opposite hard cam.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and
like
they see it.
If the hard cam had been missed, if you faced the hard cam side and they'd cut to like something random, then like fair enough. But the fact that they kept the hard cam on, knowing that she turned around, that was fine. I felt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, that anticipation, hearing them roar, you know, it was really exciting. It felt like something more like they do in NXT when NXT was really hot, you know, like getting the fans to kind of portray just how exciting all this is, rather than just straight up being about the TV camera, you know. So I did like the way it was built up, but yeah, we mentioned it a lot last night. She's definitely kind of fitted and suited to this group. It's gonna be interesting to see where we go. Now we will get into our predictions here a little bit as well, because this is the match where, and you did call it last night, Lucas, you said there would be a chance that the referee would screw up our bonus point. And technically, the referee did screw up our bonus point because Damian Priest was banned, should have been DQ, and AJ Styles should have won, and me and Rob should have been getting not only a victory, but a bonus point victory. And of course, that comes into play. You'll see when we go on to our table at the end of the show.
That's the thing, though.
But I can't believe when you said it last night, and we were joking about saying, yeah, they've done that a few times. There was that one with Bailey about a year or so ago, you know, it was all like, technically you were right with your predictions, but you know, blah blah blah. And the same thing has happened here, and we've been.
Was it Charlotte and Charlotte and someone? Was it last year?
I feel like there was a few.
Charlotte
was it Charlotte Rhea?
Was it Rhea?
Something about Rhea. But either way, same thing again. But I can't begrudge it too much because the moment was good. You know, moving away from trying to, you know, get a new championship this year. I've got to say, a really good reveal, and again, an enjoyable match. I did think it was quite good. What about you?
Yeah, the match was decent. Obviously, I think the crowd, 50-50 into it. I felt like, I think we kind of knew it was a vehicle to get the new person in. Yeah. You know, I think we all kind of was in on that. And yeah, I know like there's some people saying Rhea was predictable, but sometimes that is the good answer. Predictable is the right answer. Yeah. It's the right choice, you know, like 100%. You know, if they had, you know, would people be happier if they just said, oh, Rhea's too predictable, let's just find another woman to put in like his demeanor.
Yeah, when Rhea's right there, like, and she's predictable for a reason, because the general consensus is she should be in this group. So that's why it's predictable, you know what I mean? So,
and that itself stems from the fact that people feel that she hasn't really had the best ride on the main roster. It's been a bit stop-start. Like, she's done some stuff which has been really good. Some stuff that's, you know, not been very good. So it's like, it's mixed reception of that. But I think her being in it actually, I think, improves the stable, in my opinion, because like I said to you yesterday, obviously we spoke about yesterday, like, I think it opens up that stable for different opportunities and makes it seem very different now. It's not the typical stable they had previously, where it's, you know, quite clearly a tag team and a main guy, or like Undisputed Era, where Undisputed Era, I guess they had all different people going on, but essentially still was, well, even that, it had the tag team, had the main guy, you know, and I had whenever Bobby Fish was injured, there was always someone to step in and be the other tag team guy. You know, but I think this opens up a lot of directions, and because Edge is involved, like I said yesterday, you have to imagine that he has more weight, you know, and more kind of clarity in the clout in the company to kind of say, you know what, I would fancy having Rhea and me team. you know, fancy having Damien and Rhea team? You know, like how about, and again, because obviously you have to imagine Edge is not going to be wrestling on Raw every single week, and he shouldn't, because he's an attraction, obviously.
Yeah.
So
and it gives him a bit of time to rest, but still kind of be relevant, you know, as well.
Yeah.
He's not. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I thought the reveal was done well. Like, I think it was definitely intentional how they did it. It got a good reaction. It's weird seeing her with black hair. Not really weird seeing her with black hair. But we'll get used to it, I guess.
Yeah. One quick comment here from Dan as well. Obviously, Dan couldn't join us for the show properly, but thank you for coming in with your comments. Too long again. I'm guessing he's referring to this match again. And it does feel like that is the case still with Edge matches. It's like he almost thinks he's in, you know, your typical kind of 5-star Tokyo Dome matches.
Yeah.
When he's not that style. He's a great wrestler, but in the WWE style, I think... Again, and I don't want to be putting it down on an Edge, and every time this has come up, especially with that Randy Orton one when he did come back, it's like, I feel awkward, you know, a bit guilty being like this after what he's come back from and how much we all think he is amazing. But, you know, we've got to be real. Sometimes the matches are going a bit too long and a little bit kind of, can we just get to the point here? And while I did enjoy this match, I think there is always that little bit of an aspect for me with Edge matches since he's come back.
Yeah, the thing is, it's one of those things now where we can't really say that, because he's now come back. He's now, interesting stat about Edge, he's now the Hall of Famer that's had the fourth most amount of matches after being inducted in the Hall of Fame. The three people that are above him are Kurt Angle, Pat Patterson, and Gerald Briscoe. Really went on.
Wait. After they got inducted?
Yeah.
So matches they've had after, I guess, what? So Pat and Gerald Briscoe because of all the Attitude Era stuff?
Yeah, they're loads.
Did Kurt Angle really do that much after? I don't remember him having that many matches when he came back.
Well, he was pretty much like once he could stop being the GM, he was pretty much full time, wasn't he?
Yeah, I guess he did, yeah. And then, and it's strange, because Edge feels like he's been back for quite a while now. I'm surprised he hasn't gone past him already, but he definitely will.
It's close. I think it's close, but
yeah.
At the moment, Kurt Angle still had like the most.
Okay, nice little fact there.
But yeah, so we can't keep being like, oh, it's just one more. You know what I mean? Like, he is now essentially, he's back to being a wrestler, and. Yeah, like, I think the problem is, though, like, I think, you know, with this format, I guess they're doing now is they're deciding, okay, you know, we're giving us less matches, which is definitely what's happened with this one.
Yeah.
But it is a case of the matches are going to get given time. I didn't think it was that bad, though. I know what Dan's like. He prefers matches that were like, you know, 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, you know, kind of thing. But I think for what they need to achieve, I guess it kind of needs to be as long as it was. It wasn't as long as previous Edge one, like, you know, obviously.
And I do think a lot of it is in that, because even I'm thinking, like I said, I enjoyed this match. It wasn't one of the longer ones or the ones that feel long. And sometimes we say long, they're not even long. They just feel like they drag, you know? So, but I think Edge is kind of, it's in the back of your mind now that Edge has these kind of matches. And Randy Orton's the same, you know? Randy Orton, when he's not, especially, I mean, RK Bro's been completely different, but when it's been those periods where Randy kind of just has those kind of, you know, the headlock matches and all that kind of stuff, it does, you know, and even if he's not, it's easy for people to just kind of assume, oh, that's just because he's, you know, doing the same old stuff. But anyway, decent match, very, very good reveal. And now we'll move into a match that I think, from the sounds of it, go on.
Also, though, Rhea Ripley has got to be the tallest 5'7" person in the history of mankind. Like, you know, I don't know what they have against it, but just to say her real height, she must be at least like 5'9", 5'10". But I guess they're worried about it seeming like, obviously they got guys obviously who are smaller, but it's abundantly clear.
Well, I saw something recently where she was trying to explain, yes, she is actually not that tall, but it's just the way she's presented or something. I don't know, but
I don't know.
It's strange. Quick comment here before we move on. Angle's had 22 since the Hall of Fame induction. Man, I remember like 4. So I guess I weren't watching the weeklies as much, but still. Now, quickly before we do move on, actually, just remind me there with Rhea Ripley once again. Actually, no, it's gone. I was going to say something along the lines of the reveal. Oh, that was it. They specifically said, "Who is this man?" To kind of throw people off the scent on the commentary. So I thought it was a nice little touch. Again, when you kind of guess what's going on, you're looking at the boots. When they're outside the ring, it did look like it could be. As soon as you get in with the boots, I think, well, that's only going to be one person in it. And it reminded me of the story about how she borrowed Damian Priest's gear that time when her gear got lost and stuff like that. So it all kind of come full circle. They are quite similar. Dan says here, Edge has 17 so far. So, 5 off. Still a little bit of way to go then, to be fair. But, I thought it'd be the other way around already. But fair play. Let's move into the next match, which from what I've seen briefly looking online, seems to have taken people by storm and completely surprised a few people, I think, as far as how much they actually enjoyed this match. And that is Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey in, of course, an I Quit match. And we speculated quite a lot yesterday that, surely Ronda's not saying I quit and stuff like that. But still, at the same time, to do it with Charlotte is a big deal. And it was. And I think the way it's presented was definitely the case. What do you think about the decision, and what do you think about the match in general?
Really, really good stuff here. Really good stuff. Absolutely, just an absolutely brilliant match. And obviously, when you looked at the card, you saw this is the only women's match and also the only title match from the entire card. I think the decision has been made here. The decision has been made. Look, let's go with quality over quantity. They could have had, as much as it would have been nice to have seen, obviously, Bianca or Becky, but I guess for a lot of these people, like, they've had their moments, they've had their, they've had their feuds, like, they've got to let stuff rebuild, I guess. But I think, this was really strong. This was really strong. I know Ronda is a divisive figure among wrestling fans. I get a feeling that obviously she was more loved the first time round. And I think, but this match should do some part to potentially kind of
rebuild
some people back. But obviously it's her own doing, sadly. Like, she's not anyone else operating the way she speaks or the way that she conducts herself when she's talking about wrestling. But obviously she has kind of buried it to a certain extent while she was gone, and hasn't necessarily been presented in the media like that she's been very positive about wrestling. But she gets in and does a job. And I think last night was just an incredible I Quit match, and it's weird. It's I Quit's a weird stipulation in the sense of they go, they're so few and far between for a start, and so few times has a championship changed hands with that stipulation too. Obviously, the most infamous one was obviously The Rock and Mankind, with the recording obviously back at No Way Out 1999, actually, almost 25 years ago. But I think, it's interesting because essentially, like, with this one, they built it all up around, obviously, the submission element. And obviously, there's been other ones where it's been built up more in the sense of, like, just the more violent stuff, or, like, kind of taking extreme bumps and higher spots and that kind of stuff. But this one was built a lot around the submission element, which made it quite interesting. I think Ronda looks so legitimate in that finish. So legitimate. Some really nice like touches with like the Happy Mother's Day line, and then like locking in the armbar, and the B word being thrown around quite a lot. But and then when she locked it in like properly, it was like, oh damn, that's like really quite painful. They've done the injury angle with Charlotte afterwards. I think pretty much the only segment on the show. I think everything else was basically the match.
There was nothing backstage. Even when it did cut to her backstage, Kelly Braxton, I was like, what's this? Because we hadn't seen anything like that for the whole show. And it felt late. It was late in the show. It was like, it keeps up to date, and check WWE.com. And I was like, oh yeah, usually you get this early on and they kind of go back to a little bit later on. But but I think it adds to the story. Obviously the rumor, and Dan said to me earlier today, that apparently rumor that she's going to go off, get married. Fair play. Now I do think having a break is great for WWE fans and for Charlotte. I think as much as she gets kind of just like Ronda gets a bit of a flack from fans even. I think she's fantastic, and we got to remember that. And I think time away will kind of freshen things up a bit. It will give other people a chance to be interested to see where Ronda goes and who goes after Ronda. But I do think Charlotte having a bit of a break and coming back is going to be going to be quite exciting now, because now we got Charlotte return to look forward to, with whether it's SummerSlam or whenever it is. I do think that's it's a positive.
It also allows obviously other people, other women in the division, to get a spotlight.
With Ronda,
Ronda's an attraction, and so whoever she kind of faces, it will be they be raised to a level, so to speak, for that match at least. And so I think it gives there's a lot of women on that roster, but it's a case of it's been for so long. It's been Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and obviously they've added Bianca Belair into that kind of fold over the past year. But how much of that is because they haven't had Bayley to do it?
Yeah.
And obviously Asuka, she's back on the Raw side of things. But yeah, but it'll be interesting now, are we going to start seeing new contenders, for these titles appear, or do we go, or are we going to go back to same things we've run, before? It just feels very much like the women's stuff is really good. This is a really high caliber match, but it just feels a bit like there's such a gap between the main lot and everyone else.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think of a woman on the SmackDown roster now that's not basically Sasha Banks or Naomi, because they're tag champions. If Ronda Rousey was to face Tamina, it's Rousey's winning.
Yeah.
If she was to face Liv Morgan,
that's it. Liv's the ultimate kind of example, really, because we said it for about 6 months running that this was their chance to bridge that gap, and they kind of failed in some sense and didn't really go for it. Dan's got a suggestion. He thinks it could be Lacey Evans being the next challenger. And also going back to the match itself, he says, here we go. Incredible match, brutal kendo shots. That's true. Ronda was selling so much better too. Charlotte's injury used to write her off to get married. As we just touched on just there as well. Thanks for that, Dan. Some great things. Like you said, it was very submission based, but they did go into hardcore elements as well, as Dan touched on the kendo sticks, especially one on the ramp with a flip. That was quite cool. Obviously, Pat tried to make it kind of jokey with Star Wars references and stuff like that. Also, I've got to say his references are saying how the officials will accept other languages of I Quit, and then did a few examples, was quite funny. But going back to the match and the hardcore elements, Charlotte Flair throwing the camera was quite unexpected but fun as well. Using the railings as well, Ronda being wrapped around the railings was quite impressive, the way they kind of used that. And the spot I actually thought was the best one, and I thought had a right to end it, but I was just worried it shouldn't end it because it felt a bit too soon, was the armbar on the ropes where Charlotte seemed desperate hanging upside down. I thought it was fantastic because I thought this is the perfect way to end that. She's stuck. She's kind of fell into it herself by accident. Ronda's taking advantage because she's so good. But I was sitting there thinking, this is great. Say I quit. But at the same time thinking, no, the match is going well. I think if you go 5 more minutes, you'll win a lot of people over. Nearly, I was feeling like you've nearly got people. And I was like, well, this is a fantastic spot to end it on. I feel like you need to continue. And then I was like, but where do you go from here? And of course, they do kind of go in a similar sense. So they do the armbar again, but they use the steel chair. And doing 2 versions of it, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, same. I think as well, this match, I was thinking yesterday, I compare it to a last man standing match. In the sense of there's a lot of kind of, pausing and, kind of waiting about. But I felt this one was actually done quite good because they weren't doing necessarily massive spots that needed setup and needed, but they were brawling and stuff. They were hitting each other with weapons. That was fair.
Yeah.
They were doing some big moves, but it wasn't a case of I've got to go and set a table up, which, by the way, obviously the fans were really, really wanting a table.
Yeah, flipping heck, yeah.
I've never known fans to chant that much.
It felt like a Dudley Boys match.
Dudley in the match.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because usually it's a case of they're setting up a table, they do a big table, they set up a table, they do a big table spot. Then it's do you quit? Oh no. And then we're waiting about for ages and ages. Do you know what I mean? But this one, it felt like the pace of it was much faster because they didn't go down that avenue of just doing big spots.
And I suppose a lot of it, when it's submission based, the move is happening at the same time. So unlike a last man standing, where you have to hit the move and you have to do the count and then that kind of stuff. At this time, the move was happening at the exact same point. Quick mention as well. Dan mentions here, Pat McAfee mentioning the Fiend. My skin crawled for the poor man when he said that, because I thought, oh, I bet you're getting an earful. A bit of an awkward one. And also Dan here with another comment of Lacey has this new character, so I guess kind of story right itself against Rousey. Can both go face heel too. Plus specifically mentioning winning the SD Women's title this week. But I do feel like, this story with Lacey, from what I've seen, and trust me, it's not been a lot, it looks like it's the clear kind of American patriot, let's go down and make her a babyface route. And I think that's too risky with Ronda at the moment. So, they've just kind of won Ronda's just won fans back over as a babyface. So maybe that's too much of a risk. She was meant to be in a Raw title before she had to leave because of pregnancy. Yeah, I mean, I do think she's being prepared for something like that. I just don't know if those storylines and characters mesh as well as Dan seems to think. But hey, I could be wrong again. I haven't watched it much recently, so
I think as well things just get reset. Like once something doesn't happen, in my take. Like I think, if she didn't, if she didn't fall pregnant last year, and she would have won the Raw Women's Championship. Yeah, fair enough. But I think the minute she fell pregnant, she had to obviously leave. To do that, and that obviously we all know that makes sense.
Well, of course, yeah.
But I think the minute that happened, it was a case of, well, now you reset and you come back to it. When you come back to it, and there's probably a new writing team since then. Let's be real. The amount that left over the past kind of year and a half, since that, and I just don't think, because it was mentioned that it might happen as a rumor, possibly. The thing is, we could even have that. The thing is, what happened in 2020 when it was, Shayna Baszler is definitely going to beat Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, even up to the week of obviously them recording the show, and it just came down to the wire, and it was Vince McMahon himself who made the call when Becky's retaining, and then Shayna's never got close at all to that, and it's but you can sit around all day and be like, she was promised it before, so it will happen again. Like, this is her moment. But look at Finn Balor. I felt they finally corrected it when they gave him his match against Brock after like 3.5 years.
After losing,
this whole first Universal Champion never got. I know I use those for you. You actually would. It did happen. The whole kind of narrative of like, oh, he was the first champion. Like, they've got to give him a rematch, right? That just wasn't on their mind for so long. They kept him in other divisions, for ages, and then decided, because it fit a narrative that they could find at the Rumble, to make Brock look really, really strong, essentially. And they were like, well, we've got this guy who can bump him out for you. It was like, now you can face Finn Balor then.
She's almost come back at a strange time, because, like you say, like Finn, he come back and it was like kind of lost in the shuffle, and Lacey's come back, and it does feel like they are going down a babyface thing. I might be wrong with it, but it does feel like that. And of course, you therefore going after Ronda. I think I have issues with that at the moment, and going after
Ronda turns.
Bianca. Yeah, exactly. But she's only just bloody won people back over, so it's a bit of a, I don't know. It's interesting to see where they're going to go through it. And the fact is, Ronda's sticking around. People thought she'd be leaving after Mania. So that's an interesting point in itself. Right, let's move on to what was the main event. Again, as you said, we speculated whether or not the I Quit could be. And looking back, maybe it should have been. Oh, we got another one. Oh, no. Yeah, we got one more. We got one more before that. Here we go. Well, maybe this is what I was talking about. This should have been the main event. Madcap Moss versus Happy Corbin. We say it a lot on this podcast, did what it needed to do. Inoffensive, decent match. And I think, that's pretty much where I sit with this one. I think, we were saying last night whether or not, Corbin could win because, is he going on to bigger and better things? But I don't think he needs to win to do that. I think he can be separated from Madcap Moss and move on and do his own thing anyway. And this match was surely about making a new superstar. And I do think they've continued to do that here. Right decision for me. And to win with the Sunsets the flip, I know some people are a little bit like, what? But at the same time, you've got to be realistic and be like, look, there was a time when a leg drop won a match. So we've, why can't we go back to things like that?
I also can't remember if he's got a finisher. Damn.
That might be it now, man. That might be it. I mean, that's...
I don't know if he's got a finisher. I've never seen him win a match, so... And I'm guessing good return done recently, but I don't know. I wasn't like crazy for the finish, but I also wasn't angry at it. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt it made sense for what it makes sense for. Like I think being a WWE fan for so long now, we just know this is just their way of going. They have this obsession with everyone has to somewhat look somewhat strong at certain times, and this is just their way of being like, oh, well, Corbin lost, but he's got a reason for losing.
Yeah.
If they want to bring that story narrative up, because honestly, like they are definitely writing this basically on the fly, at times, and people think there's actually like a long-term story reason or whatever, like for most of this stuff, like are deluded. But it's a case of they have a little out. So like if on SmackDown, because that's the thing, between now and SmackDown's a long time, 6 days. It must be scary being a WWE superstar on a SmackDown brand or a pay-per-view, because essentially, like all these plans that could have happened, you've got 5 days from the big man.
That's it. Like, with Raw, at least it's locked in the next day. You're like, oh, it's only 24 hours for someone's mind to be changed.
Exactly. But SmackDown, you've got 6 whole days.
Yeah, going backwards and forwards on ideas and all that. And
obviously, the whole week basically of the working week, in the sense of obviously business stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
If they start, if they lose stocks, if there's releases, if there's whatever, all that week to have to sit and wait, and then Friday comes and what was on the table was not on the table, and they say, well, sorry man, you'll be facing Mark Moss again. And look, we got our story reason now, because he technically, it was only a roll up. It's not, it wasn't, he was caught off guard. He wasn't ready for it, whatever it is. But yeah, look, the match was inoffensive. I'm quite a fan of Madcap Moss, after yesterday. I think he's not really been given, Riddick Moss not really been given anything like it was supposed to start throughout, the last couple of years. So it'd be nice to see, how they go with him going forward. There's obviously an IC title division that definitely needs people involved with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it won't make the PLEs, as we are aware, but it'll be something we'll see, I guess, on our little.
Not even a pre-show these days.
not in the pre-show match, is there? But I think that division definitely needs some padding out, and if they want to send obviously one of these people down to do that, I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, quickly, Dan's come up with the facts, of course. His finish is the punchline. Great name, considering his character. First, he speculated some kind of power slam, but now he's saying it's a neck breaker. Probably seen it. Probably thought he looked good. Forgotten all about it. And especially when you don't win your biggest match with it. Doesn't help solidify what your finisher is. But, hey, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of it coming soon, because he definitely looked like he's on the upward trajectory. And I think an IC kind of feud is not a bad idea, actually. Right, let's now get into the main event. Again, we speculated earlier that it could have been the I Quit match, but no, they went with the match that didn't need to happen. It felt like there was nothing on the line, didn't make any sense, felt like a house show match, felt like a go home match. But we did speculate that although that was the case, and yes, we might not get anyone return or come after Reigns at the end of it, that we could probably still see a very entertaining match. And I think that's exactly what we got. And I think that this match kind of sums up the show in general, that not much happened in the sense of progressing certain storylines. Yes, of course, Ronda kept, won the title and stuff like that. You've got that. But generally speaking, and of course, we had Rhea Ripley, but generally speaking, match-wise, it was a kind of safe rehash of certain matches from WrestleMania, chalking things up to an even level where they could potentially go to a rubber match if they need to. And this match was kind of similar in the sense that, entertaining match. Progression of storyline, I'm not too sure. The only thing you could say is that RK Bro and Usos probably still have some bad blood. They could face each other and still have that planned match. And that Drew definitely looks like, for the moment at least, they are teasing them two together. Now, I still think we've gone about it a lot, so I won't go on too much. But, the rumors of the UK show having Tyson Fury and that kind of tying up Drew and him not needing the title for that. Rumors of Roman leaving. If you want to hear us talk about it in depth, please check out our build-up show for it, because although we were previewing the event, we, of course, going into digging deep in topics, I should say, like that as well. But, generally, for this match, I do think, again, they made a point of teasing Drew, but they've done that often anyway. Again, they faced each other a few years ago, Clash of Champions, and I do think that match will come eventually. I don't think it means it's coming next, but I do think it means it is somewhere in the pipeline. And again, another quick note really was just that Orton just seems so happy, and the Bloodline are so cool. So there you go.
I think Obviously I'm a bit annoyed that I did lose the point for this one. But I think we're left with a lot of questions more than answers. And obviously, we spoke a lot about obviously the Roman potentially leaving thing. I don't believe there to be any truth to that. It has kind of been dismissed by a lot of people since then, and maybe it's more at him not being on house shows, or the fact that the place that he said it at, they literally hadn't run events in for like 5 years.
Right. Okay. So, maybe he's just being realistic about the booking.
Like when he's 41, is he really going to be doing this all the time? Like probably not. But look, I thought the match was fine. It was a really fun one. I can't remember. Dan, actually, you can do a little fact check. When was the last time a pay-per-view ended with a tag team match that wasn't Survivor Series?
And for no titles as well, so
it's got to be a while.
Yeah. You couldn't do that at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam or something like that, could you? It has to be, like we were saying earlier, these different tiers of PLEs. This is the kind of pay-per-view PLE event you could, main event you could get where you couldn't get away with it elsewhere.
They've done obviously the Rumble without the Rumble match being on last on a few occasions, haven't they?
Yeah, but because there was nothing really big going on other than I Quit match in this, there's not that many complaints, whereas you had a big gimmick match like that. Yeah. So you could, I understand like a world title match can go over the Rumble sometimes, or, a stipulation match, but a 6-man tag where nothing's on the line, I think this is the only PLE they could have done it on.
Yeah, but it's very unique for that reason. But I just feel, like I say, we're looking through the entire show and the card about, we're talking about winners and losers, who looks strongest, who looks possible for next. The problem they've got is Drew's like the only one really on the brand, that they could do that with. Obviously, the Arcade Bro guys, I guess they've got merit to do that, and I guess it's interesting with the belts being obviously Roman had to be on both brands, so obviously he could potentially be challenged by someone from the Raw side of things. We can't obviously dismiss Cody too, but I think it might just be a bit too soon.
And it does feel like after last night it probably would go on to Cody Seth again, so I do think that as well. And again, Drew doesn't have to win it, so maybe it is going to be Drew up until Drew is kind of taken up by this Tyson Fury apparent kind of rumored challenge. So he doesn't have to win it, but I think it always felt like he would eventually beat Roman, especially when we saw them both as champs back in the day and stuff like that. And I don't know, it makes sense that in some ways, at least, that it beat Roman, but maybe not. Maybe not.
I think it might be in one narrative, but it just like we can see, like we've got a long time now before these big the stadiums, summer stadiums begin. Like I think, and I think there's lots with this because obviously it depends obviously how much weight there is to these Tyson Fury rumors. He said a lot of stuff, but again, like until he is presented on television and he's saying the words, "I'm challenging this person to a match at this event." But again, this might be another one they wait till Saudi. Again, he might be doing that, like to be like put the feelers out, and then Saudi here and go, look, we'll pay you like 20 million to come and face whoever. Like this is the thing. Like he might just be playing the field. He might have had discussion. He might not have had discussions. You know what I mean? Like there's no. He can say what he wants, but in a case of until he's on a WWE licensed product, saying this is what's what. It's hard for us to say, but like I think it's very interesting because obviously the UK event's obviously in Wales, and as much as we're kind of going on this whole like SummerSlam '92 vibe of like David Boy Smith winning the IC Championship in the main event from Bret Hart, like I don't see that narrative happening. And as we're kind of aware from the past few years, like this hometown thing, like it just means you're going to lose in the nicest possible way. So I think, as much as we kind of hold on to that, but then still it's just like, if Drew was winning, like wouldn't they just book a venue in like Scotland, like to get that big pop? Or do they not?
I don't know. I think they'll be loose with it. They'll go more. They'll be more on the British side of things, won't they? Because even if it's Drew versus Tyson Fury, he's not Welsh either, so it would be a bit odd, but I think at the same time, if Tyson Fury had a fight in Wales, it would still be received quite well. And I think like in an actual boxing match, and if Drew, you know what it's like when back in the day when Drew would come here, Sheamus would come here, you know, because they're from this side of the pond. Even in London, would be like hometown boy, you know. So it's kind of like that. So I can kind of see it. Dan's popped up here actually with an update, a network exclusive Superstar Showdown January 2021. Drew and Indus Sher versus Jinder and Bollywood Boys. But still, even that's not like a proper PLE, is it? So yeah, it's. Must be even longer than that, and that's the. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember watching it. So I don't even know who Indus Sher is. Who is Indus Sher?
That was Veer Mahan and Rinku.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's the tick. That's it.
And
yeah.
I remember they've done this several times now, but they were called like one person and not the other. And they always called up Veer Mahan, which is over on the Raw brand now. But similarly, yeah, because obviously you had. Bollywood Boys, bless them. You see his names again. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know, yeah. And that's not even long ago, man. That's January 2021.
Yeah.
A few more here as well when Dan mentions the other one, the Shield versus Corbin, Drew and Lashley. So again, even 2019, and a lot's changed since then as well. So
and Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre want opposite sides on that one as well. Eh?
True, yeah. Cool.
Wow, that's it's interesting that, isn't it? Things like that, you know, like even though obviously other names around them have been, you know, been and gone or in different positions. Like again, we've had a 6-man tag and it's been involving those two people on opposite sides. And yeah, it just kind of feel like this Reigns and Drew thing has been around for a long time now. That was 2019. You know, where they're obviously on opposite teams. It was obviously Reigns' first Mania match, obviously after the forgotten Reigns and Drew match that we haven't had it.
Of course,
people have forgotten about that because that was on the last WrestleMania, obviously one night WrestleMania. You know, six days long, I believe it was.
One night, but 6 days.
But yeah, everyone's kind of forgotten that. Like I said, when they were both champion, we had that. Obviously, I think it was at Survivor Series when they faced each other. But you could argue that they haven't really faced each other without it just being a proper feud. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it being about now it is about them two and who's going to win the title.
Yeah.
Who is the actual better one? Yeah, not like a brand thing, not like a 6-man thing. So it's definitely, and again, they definitely kind of hinted towards it, and they kept showing Drew, you know, looking upset by the announce table. So I do think it's whether or not it's happening next, I don't know. I do think it's going to happen. They know.
Well, that's the
fans
thing. You have to assume that they can't just rehash this match inside Hell in a Cell.
No.
But obviously, last year they took the decision to obviously take the Roman Cell match. Who did Roman? Was it Cesaro in the Cell? Remember, but they moved the SmackDown, didn't they? Was it Dan O'Brien? Remember, they moved the SmackDown, didn't they?
What? The Cell match itself?
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm trying to find out who it was. I think it was.
While you do, Dan's also got another update. Last time there was a 2-on-2 tag match. It was November 20th, 2011. Rock and John Cena versus Awesome Trio of Survivor Series. What a great match that was as well. Great little storyline going on there. But like I said, I do think that's. I just hope they don't waste it and just do it as a stopgap thing. I think it feels like it needs to be the big thing. Unless the big thing for Roman is something else, it would be a shame if it wasn't Drew McIntyre. But yeah.
Okay, Backlash. Oh no, there we are. It was Rey Mysterio. Yeah, remember the whole Rey Mysterio thing. Yeah, so it was Rey Mysterio. It was Hell in a Cell on SmackDown before the pay-per-view. They moved it they moved it onto SmackDown, which obviously was a weird decision to do. So
strange, man.
But essentially, we're at the stage now where who faces Roman, and Dirty Dave is saying that they are, it seems, out of resources, and it will be Brock.
It's mad though, isn't it? Because
going back to that story, because essentially there's no one.
But there are people, we
said
last night, even if there's Drew, there's Cody. It depends on the two titles. We spent a lot of time talking about this last night, so we won't go too deep into it. I
guess there's Orton.
there's Seth Rollins, there's a lot of people they could do it. They could even pump up Sheamus if they want, so there's a lot of things they could do if they really put their minds to it. But surely, again, we say about this whole long-term booking, surely there's a plan for someone's going to beat Roman at some point, whether it's for one of the belts or both of the belts. I don't know. But yeah, what it felt like last night, at least, was that they definitely wanted to sow the seeds and remind you of Drew and Roman being a dream match almost, without fully pulling the trigger just yet, I think is what they're going with. But again, that could all change when we watch the weeklies, or we won't watch the weeklies. When we hear about the weeklies, me and you, this next week. But yeah, a good match to end a good show. And it was exactly what I hoped it would be. A card that we looked at and went, I'm not too fussed. But, we did speculate whether or not, because of that, it would end up being something that over-delivered as far as in-ring products. Like the in-ring product was great. Didn't progress the most storylines, but again, it's kind of like, I don't want to keep putting it down acting like it is a house show. But if I went to a show and I saw this as a show, as an event, I would be very, very happy with what I saw. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much our WrestleMania Backlash review. Unless you got anything else you want to say before we head on out, Lucas? All right, brilliant. Well, thank you for everyone that's joined us on demand, also live as well. Don't forget, we do these podcast reviews, build-up shows, prediction shows as well. We do them live, but there are also always the opportunity to watch them on demand. So please go back and check out the build-up show. Again, I know it was previewing an event that has now since taken place, but as we mentioned through this review, there are a lot of great discussions that we had on there as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. And of course, all the other content we've got on here, interviews with WWE superstars, not just WWE content as well, other wrestling content throughout this channel and the main Rebellious Noise channel. And we'll be back obviously for the next PLE, which will be Hell in a Cell. Last comment here though, I've got to do it. Show the table and acknowledge me. A little hint, guys, if you want to know who's at the top of the table, let's get it ready here. Hold on. It's coming. First round, of course, after it's been reset with the new season. Dan is at the top with a clean sweep. I've got to admit, very, very good, Dan. 6-pointer for you there. Lucas gets 5, obviously, because he did miss out on, as he just mentioned, on that last match. And then following up from behind that, myself, and I've written Lucas there twice. That's meant to say Rob. My goodness. Lucas, you are on 5. Oh, my goodness. Rob, mate, sacked in the morning. I'm getting sacked in. Right, anyway, Rob is bottom. We'll make a new graphic for the next time, guys. Rob is joint bottom with me. You are on 5. Dan is on 6.
It's a long year ahead.
It's a long year. I mean, yeah, definitely. Last year, I felt like we were chasing Rob for a bit. But it could have all changed, especially on the WrestleMania and the other events where we do all the bonus and extra ways to kind of win points as well. But Dan's had a great start. You had a very good start as well. Myself and Rob, if it weren't for the fact that we got screwed by the referee, just like tends to happen a lot in WWE. So used to Lucas being last. Yeah, maybe that's where it was. No offense, Lucas. But you've done well, mate. What a great start on your way to a silver trophy at the moment, at least. But you could get there taking over Dan within the next round. But definitely come back and check out more of our content, guys. Once again, we'll be back for the Hell in a Cell. We'll be doing predictions and a preview for that PLE. It'll be in a few weeks' time. And in the meantime, check out everything else we got here at Rebellious Noise. So thank you very much, Lucas, for coming on today. Been good chatting wrestling again. And yeah, we'll see you all for the next one. Cheers.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.